The Community Pick Game of the Month is coming up in October, but we're doing things a little different this year. We're simplifying things. All you have to do this year is vote for one game on any video that comes out in September. Every one account gets one vote. Doubling votes doesn't matter, and we will make a list of every single game that you guys pick, and we will randomly generate a number coinciding with the games you guys picked. We'll have a countdown eliminating all the picks, and we will have one winner and two runner-ups. Runner-ups go on our list for later random picks, and the winner will be the game we play in October. So to sum it up, vote once in September. You're on the list, and we'll find out what we're playing in October. So think about what you want to play. If somebody picked what you wanted, make sure to vote for something else, or don't vote at all to make sure there's less things to compete against it. And we'll find out your guys' pick for Game of the Month in October at the end of September. What's going on, guys? Welcome to August's episode of Game of the Month, the show where we pick a game at random every month, and at the end of the month we talk about it. My name is Seth, and joining me today is Chevy. Chevy, Community Pick Game of the Month is coming up in October. Hopefully you're excited to find out what our community will be picking for the Game of the Month in October. Make sure to be voting. You guys saw the intro on this episode or any episode in September. Whatever game you want, just throw it in there. And yeah, hopefully you're ready to talk about Soulcalibur VI. And I want to get your opinion on one thing that we missed by like a day, which is the PlayStation Plus games for September as well. Now, we just talked about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, Little Nightmares, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. So if you want to see our review on that, make sure to check out Plus Club that just came out. But yeah, we didn't know what games are coming out. There was a weird leak that happened simultaneously, whereas this and some really bizarre smattering of games, they both came out like an hour before this actually came out, and then it was confirmed. So the games that were confirmed for sure for September are Need for Speed Heat, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, I couldn't even read that, and then TOEM. It says something, but I can't read it, but it has to do with photography. Do you know anything about TOEM?
I don't know anything about that.
I looked it up. It's a black and white game. It's like a top-down, almost Fez camera-angled game.
Okay.
But then in other scenes, it looked like he was taking pictures like Pokemon Snap.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting looking. Also, it got rated pretty high when it came out. I've never heard of it before.
I'll say it seems like something I would enjoy. So if that's the case.
Yeah. So with that, what do you think about September's offerings?
I think it's a pretty good balance of things.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, Need for Speed Heat. I'm not a big Need for Speed fan, but I don't hate them either. So like, I'm interested to see like what
it's
this
just an arcade racer.
Like. Yeah, for sure. I've wanted to play Grand Blue Fantasy Versus since it came out, but fighting games at the price point, because they come out at the same price point as any other game, sometimes $10 less, but they don't usually offer the same kind of content. And so the only other like thing outside of like maybe the story and then some bot verses is like to play online. Mm-hmm. And that game, to my knowledge, I don't even think it still has rollback net code, which kind of killed my hype for buying it. That being said, I love the art style. I tried getting Grand Blue as a browser-based gacha game, and I think it's just been out too long, and it was kind of like whoosh, over my head. But yeah, I love the art style. I like 2.5. Is that 2.5 or is it just a 2D? I can't remember. Fighter, I'm into that kind of stuff. It's my favorite genre of fighting games.
I think it's 2D.
Well, I know it's side to side. I just don't know if they're drawings or if they're 3D models. So
nowadays it's getting harder to tell.
I can't remember. And then the other one from your description sounds interesting. So I mean, honestly, it sounds like a pretty decent month. So.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. First off, I won't reveal our opinions too hard on August's PlayStation Plus games, but we had a lot to say about it. It seemed like we enjoyed for the most part, and a couple of months before that, we're kind of like iffy. So I was wondering if we're going to get a repeat interesting month, and it does kind of seem like it to me because, like you kind of pointed out, this is a good and varied month. We've had months in the past where it's like 2 adventure games or 2 platformers or something weird like that, or 2 shooters, and like I'll take them, but it's like for the format and for this show, it's a lot better in my opinion to have different conversations about different kinds of games. And so we're getting the arcade racer, which I mean, honestly, this month seems like the I was curious but never pulled the trigger games being offered here, because Need for Speed I'm not the biggest fan of, but I don't hate it like you. I'm on the same page. I know when Heat came out, it got like okay reviews, nothing amazing, but I was like kind of curious about it, so I get to play that, so that's pretty cool. I kind of get to, well, I do get to see where Need for Speed is at, which will be very interesting for me to discuss because I'm out of the loop. And then Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, I remember seeing that shit at E3 in 2019, and it looked really cool. I was like, what the fuck is that game?
Yeah.
And so being able to play will be really cool. It'll be interesting to play a fighting game that's not, one of the many games, including the game we'll be talking about here, Soulcalibur, Street Fighter, Tekken, stuff like that. Something new and different. So I'm really curious to see how that plays. The whole netcode thing is kind of a bummer, but I don't really play online a whole lot when it comes to fighting games, so not a big deal. And then that Tome game I've literally never heard of, but I looked it up right before we started filming, and instantly I was like, oh, that's actually kind of neat looking. So I'm really excited to play these 3 games and talk about them at the end of September. So really stoked for it, and yeah, I'm just most excited because they're all very different. We got a fighting game, arcade racer, and a weird little indie game that has to do with photography, which I'm a fan of photography, so that's pretty cool to me. Anything else you want to say on these games?
No.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys think about these games coming up for PlayStation Plus. You excited, not excited? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so before we get into talking about Soulcalibur VI, we have to pick the game we'll be playing in September. So yeah, let's do that real quick. Now the way we do this is we have a list of back burner games, and we have numbers that coincide with those back burner games, and we have a random number generator. I'm going to hit the button multiple times while not looking, and whatever number we get will coincide with the game on that list, and Chevy will reveal that, and that will be our game of the month for September. Make sure to vote for October, though. That's your guys' pick. All right. Let's do this because I'm really excited to find out what we'll be playing in September. We'll start hitting the button right now in 3, 2, 1, and go. I'm clicking the button, and I'm going to stop clicking in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 17.
We will be playing The Last of Us Part 2.
Interesting. Which means I'll be playing The Last of Us.
It does mean
Part 2, and you'll have to watch. That's an interesting one because Part 1 just came out. I want to play that. Yeah, I'm honestly excited because I've only played through and finished The Last of Us Part 2 one time. And I've talked about already my opinions on that, but I'm going to try and reserve talking about it at this point because I'm going to have to review it in September. But I'm really excited to see your reaction to it because you've seen the first game played through completely and you liked it. So this is the next part of the story, and I feel like it's kind of crucial that you should see it.
I also avoided all the...
all of them?
Pretty much everything, yeah.
Wow, okay.
That had to do with the game. So.
That is incredible. Because that was the biggest leaked and most talked about when it comes to big spoilers game I've seen in years. Because it was very contentious on the direction they took things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about it. Just from my understanding, though, is... contextually, ideas were formed out of context from leaked footage.
Yeah.
And so I also know that first impressions matter a lot in anything. And so, like, it's really hard to, like, reverse course correct. Because even to this day, even though it's almost non-existent finally, but No Man's Sky, like, had huge reputation damage that they had to fix.
Yep.
So...
and there's still a small group of people.
It's a huge uphill battle when you have that bad first impression.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And without talking about Last of Us Part 2 in detail at all right now, or really much at all in general, a huge thing that kind of sucked is they took a big risk in Part 2 that without the context, which you weren't supposed to even know before playing the game, can seem like something you're not going to be happy with, but I think they pull it off and nail it through really good writing. I'll review it later, but the leak fucking sabotaged that. A lot of people couldn't even have a mindset to appreciate it. But we'll talk about it. I don't want to get on the topic because we're going to be talking about that at the end of September. So Yeah, make sure to play Last of Us Part 2 and Part 1. That just came out. How timely. And we'll discuss that in on the next Plus Club. Let me type this in. Last of Us 2. Okay, so we played another game, though, in August, and that game was Soulcalibur VI. If you didn't get a chance to play Soulcalibur VI, it's a fighting game. It's the sixth one of a long-running fighting game, going back to Soul Edge on PlayStation. It is a weapon-centric fighting game. So you have all these different characters. They have all these different specific weapons that they use, from a staff to nunchucks to a katana to a giant axe, and they all have fighting styles that pertain around these. The game features a more robust story mode than Soul Calibur's really ever had. It's got a thing called Libra of Souls, which is almost like an RPG, where you explore a map, do side quests, get new gear, and upgrade your gear, level up, and fight people the same way you fight, in a typical fighting game. So nothing changes there. And then it has your typical fare of, fighting against AI bots, or fighting against actual people on the same screen, or playing online. I did not touch that myself. We'll talk about it just because I've heard negative things about the netcode for this game, so I didn't want to dabble with it. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's Soulcalibur 6. It's the sixth one. You hit each other until their bar goes away. It's got specials. It's got that system I forgot the name of, where you guys swing at each other and it goes in slow-mo, and you can decide to dodge, back up, block, swing, all that kind of shit. And we both played in August, so we'll start with you on your impressions of Soulcalibur 6.
All right. Well, just right off the bat, it's also worth noting this game is kind of a reboot of the story of the game.
And after 5, it makes sense.
Yeah, this is a very good starting point if the story is something that even matters to you in fighting games. I know that's not really a big thing, but just to let you know, you don't need prior knowledge to know and understand the characters, because they are now similar and different at the same time now.
It's weird how similar they are. Like, they stuck really close to the story, but there's just like some differences, and it's like, oh yeah, they rebooted this.
Yeah, they're trying to clean it up. It kind of reminds me of like when Mortal Kombat decided they needed to start over. And this is not a knock against Soulcalibur, but I don't think anyone's done it as good as Mortal Kombat has. So, in that regard,
still, yeah. It's crazy.
3D fighter as well, worth mentioning. So in the same vein as like your Virtua Fighter, your Tekkens, stuff like that. I think even Killer Instinct is a 3D fighter, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. That might be 2.5, but I think
it's 2.5.
I haven't played Killer Instinct since before even the last one they did. So that being said, it's not generally my fighting game style. I do prefer a 2D or 2.5, but I don't hate this format, unlike other fighting games or faux fighting games, depending on how you view them.
What was that? There was like a whole genre for a little bit where they experimented with like your character's here and somebody's like down the way. I'll do it so people can see. You're like here and the other character's there, and you like fight like this. I think it was like one of the Dragon Ball Z games was like that.
I don't know.
I'm kind of glad that didn't catch on.
It's good to experiment, obviously.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think, was that Xenoverse that did that? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
People love those games, but I don't think I was too fond of it. But I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to fighting games. That being said, I do enjoy things like Tekken, and in this case, Soulcalibur, and specifically in this game, them rebooting it, I think was great. I kind of wish they would have done the storyline a little more flashy, but who knows what their budget was, and the way they did it is just fine technically. They did a lot of pictures with text that you read. I think there's some voice acting as well. And specifically, the first time we go through the story, it does kind of go through multiple characters as you hit the certain years and time points as you go. And so it's a good way, especially if it's your first time in the game, to kind of be forced to try all the different characters out and stuff like that, outside of DLC characters.
It's kind of nice because like the story of Soulcalibur, like every fighting game, becomes like there's too much things going on, because you have all these characters, you're trying to connect them all, and there's minor stories happening with these guys and minor stories happening with these guys. And again, Soul Calibur fell for the same problem that all fighting games do in that sense. But in this, they have a timeline, and certain characters enter the timeline in certain parts, and you can play their kind of story. And it kind of is a really smart way to kind of show a visual of the story and how it unfolds. And there's a main story, but also all the characters have their own parts of it, and it's like different eras and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and they do a good job of like giving you a visual representation of what year it is and whose stories are where. So when you like look at it outside of like actually being in it and playing, you can see when people interacted with each other and what events happened at what times. It's a neat little touch they've added, because if you do kind of get into the story and the lore of it, it's just another layer of detail essentially in that regard. Yeah, so and like previous Soul Caliburs as well, there are multiple weapons, though. As a nitpick, I do think there are very few weapons per character, but there are a lot of characters in the game, so if they do another
especially
one
now,
yeah, hopefully they go a little heavier on the variety, because it feels like every character's got like 5 styles of their weapon.
which is crazy, because older Soul Caliburs made years ago had a bunch of weapons.
Yeah, and that also carries into character creation. It felt pretty much like the character creation from 5 to me. Maybe I'm crazy. My memory's not that great, but they feel very similar. Which is kind of a bummer. I was really hoping like just for them to go crazy. There's a decent amount of parts. You can make a lot of unique characters, but I also feel like character creation in games has come so far that it's almost kind of living in the past in some ways. So I'd like to see that system revamped. I don't want them to get rid of it. I think it's great, and if you get more of the same, I'm not going to complain, but I will still wish for more. Yeah. I don't know what to say.
On that note, there's this weird thing that happened with this series. So I've mentioned this a million times. So Soul Calibur is my favorite fighting game series of all time, which will definitely reflect in my grade. But there's something that happened with Soul Calibur V that made a lot of people unhappy, and that was me for sure as well. There's only one Soul Calibur I don't like, and it's 5. It's because they made too many changes. It just didn't feel correct. And so I also think that the customization of the game feels borderline identical to 5, except for there's more things they added, because it's the same stuff with more stuff they've added, especially, with the seasons or whatever, season 1, season 2, or whatever the DLCs are. And though that is disappointing, I think they fixed, for the most part, the core gameplay and brought it back to a place that was safe. And so I view Soul Calibur 6 as them trying to get back on the track
100%.
that they went off of. So even though I do agree with you 100% that I'm like looking at that, I'm going like, this feels like 5 in some ways, like content wise.
Yeah.
And it's lacking weapons, stuff like that. I play the game and I'm like, but this feels better than 5 did for sure. And Keelik's back, which is nice. Like in 5 they fucking made him into weapon master essentially. But I take some of the negatives and just look at the positives. I think the positives outweigh in the sense of like, this is course correction. Hopefully 7 will be the advancement, the big advancement that I was hoping for, because I don't even think 6, and it's a little dated now too. The game's been out for a while.
That was going to be something I was going to
looking at it. But I remember when it came out, I wasn't even that impressed with the way it looked.
It was safe.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I remember when they were making it, they were talking about the development as they were working on it, and it felt almost like a project that they were like hoping would work out. It's like they didn't have the funding or something. They're like, okay, we got to try and fix Soul Calibur, but like 5 didn't do that great, so like we got to really like it almost seemed like there was like a tight budget or like a smaller team or something like that on it. And so like,
I don't think the interest in fighting games was super heavy at the time. It was
there was this weird lull, and that was part of it. And then they had fucked up with 5, and so I think that was a huge factor of it. So playing it, and I'll let you continue on where you're going, but like just kind of coinciding with like this was them trying to fix the game to save the name, which I think they did. It does look in some places like they could have did more. And I think the character models 100% could have, because I thought
Yeah.
character models in Soulcalibur V, I didn't like the way they looked. I thought they looked. I loved 2. I loved 3. 4 was pretty good, but 4 is kind of where it started, and then 5 kind of looks like 4, and then 6 kind of looks like the same thing.
And every other 3D character fighting game that's come out within the same generation have better looking characters.
100%, yeah,
So-
and especially the games that are coming out now. With looking at Soulcalibur, Street Fighter, the new one looks amazing.
yeah.
Tekken, we saw a render of I forgot his name. So
Guarantee you Tekken, and this is the same company, Soulcalibur, but that's what they
Exactly.
put their money
So-
for sure.
This game just while I was playing it this month, I know I'm kind of just going off on another thing. I keep thinking about Soulcalibur 7 now because they got to up the ante.
I think
They
also,
saved the game. They need to up the ante now.
I think it's a good time for them to think about it. Obviously, all hands on Tekken at the moment because they did.
Yeah.
Bring,
I'm so excited.
but Evo was so full of announcements. There's so many fighting games right now. I think it's a good time to kind of like bring out a name people know, because a lot of people are flirting with new IPs, which I appreciate, but they keep like not nailing it, which is unfortunate. I think DNF Duel is a good example of that. And that company has a pedigree in fighting games,
I want to
but
try that.
it kind of died off really quick too. I want to play too. I also don't play competitively online. I like the netcode because I like playing fighting games with friends over the internet. I need that to work.
Yeah.
So I don't need there to be a huge community, but for the sake of the game's future, it needs to have a community. So that's really important. I also see a lot of people retroactively adding these netcodes to like old fighting games now, which is great because it's bringing life back into those games. And then SNK and Capcom have been kind of flirting ever since the Marvel deal dropped with Capcom. So because there won't be Marvel vs. Capcom anymore now, but people are kind of thinking there might be a Capcom versus
Interesting.
SNK again, which would be awesome.
That would be cool.
All rumors. Sorry.
Yeah, I like how we're just talking about fighting games.
I mean,
Kind of part of the topic though.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like fighting games are one of the only games that like netcode's gonna make or break the online experience.
That
but
and
it's one of the
racing games.
it's one of the only 100%. But they are I'll expand it. Are some of the only genres in gaming that is not meeting or matching other genres in the sense that like if an FPS comes out, it has to play online.
shooters
It's
almost
not
never
gonna
have
it's
problems.
not gonna last if it doesn't have online. Of course, it's gonna have online. Most people aren't going to the same house to play shooters together. Same thing nowadays with fighting games. Like you want your
100%.
game to last, you need online that works. And if your online sucks, doesn't matter what the genre is, but in a fighting game, any game, if it sucks, people aren't going to play it. So you just kind of killed off the future potential of community in that game, because otherwise you got to rely on people coming to people's houses and stuff. People don't do that. Like they do sometimes, but not to the same numbers as like somebody playing a shooter online, because they can play online.
Well, a
so
lot of
it's
people
super crucial.
make friends online now.
Yeah.
That's where their gaming friends are coming from. So
Yeah.
you might be playing a game with someone in a completely different country. You can't exactly invite them over. So
Yeah. So essentially, long story short, though, like if you don't have your online component
pretty much
working
dead on
good,
arrival.
yeah, in a fighting game or racing game, you probably just sold a single player game.
True.
So you better support it like a single player game, because people are going to be playing online. So anyway,
No, that's fine. So yeah, you kind of brought it up already, and we talked about it a little bit, but like it is, it's graphically fine, but it could be a lot better. I think. I think they could really showcase and make a really flashy game. It's a fully 3D game with 3D movement, so they could make that a huge focal point for sure.
here's one of my biggest issues, and I've had this for like the last 3 iterations of Soulcalibur. I feel like the character models for the main characters look obviously better than the create character models, but they feel like they're all in similar like body structures and facial structures, that they're putting like Maxie's hair on this head, and you get those tools in the character creator as well, but they're touched up better because these are the main characters. But they still, like, you look at their facial composition, the way they're shaped and stuff, and like some of the characters' faces outside of their eye color and hairstyle and clothes look very similar, and that comes off kind of lazy, especially now. Like you mentioned earlier, Other games aren't doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep jumping in.
No, that's fine. Yeah, and this isn't really meant to be so much I'm not like. I guess to be clear, I enjoyed my time of the game. I enjoy the game. I think it's a great place that they've rebooted the game, and I look forward to hopefully future iterations with improvements. But I do think it has its issues, and they're not game breaking for me. I still enjoy it, but I do think they're worth talking about. And I think one of those I also need to bring up is mechanics wise. You brought it up earlier, but it has like this almost paper rock scissors thing you can do. I think they should not bring that back.
I agree.
I think it completely ruins the flow of combat.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel, the skill kind of goes out the window because it just turns into gambling effectively at that point.
Yeah, it offers like a flashy set piece in the middle of the fight, but anybody playing fighting games wants the fight to be dictated by skill.
Yeah.
And not by like, oh, look at this cinematic fight scene that happens. Like, well, cool, but like I was just fighting. Like, I don't want to do this. And it's also annoying playing against like the bots. Sometimes they'll get a pattern where they will spam that. And I'm like, stop sending us into this fucking thing, dude. I don't want to do this. So I don't hate it, but I agree with you 100%. I don't want it in 7.
It doesn't need to return. And I think it's good to have things in games to maybe break out of combos and stuff. I think a great example of that is like in Guilty Gear, you can burst, right? And you can throw people off you. But it doesn't slow the game down, and all of a sudden you're in slow motion. Like, they get thrown, you can start running at them. The moment they stand up, they're running right back at you again. It just breaks their combo so you can breathe for a split second.
Yeah.
And stuff like that's good. It's just an example off the top of my head because I play Guilty Gear more than most other fighting games. So, yeah. Anyways, this month I didn't play a whole lot either, just because I've played this game in the past when it came out. So this month I played it on PC instead of PlayStation like I did before. I did play the PS4 controller. I'm happy to say the game runs great on PC. So if you were looking at it on a PC because of the cheaper price tag, because we found that out.
Yeah.
It runs flawlessly on there.
Yeah, it was cheaper for me to buy the base game and both of the major DLCs than to buy just one of the DLCs on PlayStation for the game I already owned.
Pretty wild. So
yeah.
And then because I use a PlayStation controller, it played just the way I wanted it to. If you prefer Xbox controller, it's a PC, you can do that. So, I mostly just did the story, and I did some create a character with some basic like versus mode, just 1v1 one match type of deal, just to kind of test out those characters. And just to throw it out there, my favorite character continues to be in this series. It used to be a long time ago, it used to be Ivy, but then when they introduced Tira, it's been Tira ever since. So
yeah,
that was a little lengthy, but it's before a fighting game. But I figured I might as well cover the nitpicky stuff, because otherwise I think it's a great starting point for the series to reboot. So
yeah, that's where I'm at too. One last thing I kind of want to throw in there before I start talking about my impressions. What do you think about the bonus characters?
I think they did a good job.
They're always kind of iffy in Soulcalibur.
So I mean, we got The Witcher, obviously.
Geralt, yeah.
And I feel like because he's in every version, it's fine. He also feels pretty balanced. He's a little more complicated than some of the other characters because of the multiple spells and stances and stuff.
He is one of the most balanced and fair-feeling bonus characters I've ever played in a Soulcalibur, because they are almost always fucking OP.
I love 2P, we'll say. I know it's supposed to be 2B, but it's the white variant of her.
I thought it was 2B.
I think they use the 2P skin technically on it. I actually think they call... I could be wrong. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I think she's overpowered.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I played her, and I'm like... I was just, like, learning her. So I'm doing a little bit of, like, pressing here, pressing there, and find out her moves, stuff like that. And, like, I was just wiping the floor with people. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, she flows really well. And you know, like... It's a bonus character. It's fun, but I would have a hard time taking that seriously.
Yeah, like Yoda back in the day. It's like,
well,
okay.
That was really bad. But
okay, he's in or Spawn way back. I think I was 2.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you put him in the game, but like I don't respect anybody who plays this character.
Yeah. it's a fun. It's fun. Otherwise, they just added characters that were already in the series before.
I thought they did a great job on the character models. In a game, I just kind of complained about the character models. I think they did a great job making the character models of Geralt, 2B, and every other.
Oh, they did for sure.
Who's the dude from Samurai Showdown? Starts with an H, I think. I don't remember. He's kind of OP too. They did a great job on their character models, and their animations are really good, and their move sets are awesome. Like 2B feels like 2B. Geralt feels like Geralt. Like I almost feel like they put more work into those characters than their original characters. But this, to its credit, this is the best bonus characters I think in any Soulcalibur. It's awesome to be able to see Geralt and 2B in the same game in my favorite fighting game series. So I was really happy with those decisions, even though I do agree 2B is 100% OP.
Yeah, she's insane.
But it's nothing new for Soulcalibur.
But yeah, no, it's cool. It's also more toys for the character creator at that point. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll jump into my impressions too. So like I said before, I played this in the past. I played it on PlayStation 4. When this got pulled for this month, I think you had brought up that it was on sale on PC. So I looked into it, and I was like, I can either spend more money to get the last of the content I don't have on PS4, or I can just own it on PC and have all the content there. So I kind of thought it'd be cool to have it on both, just in case I want to play on my Steam Deck one day and I want to play on my PS4 one day. So I played it on PC this month, and I also want to preface this with something I've been saying all of August, and hope to not be saying this in September. I didn't get to play games a whole lot in the beginning of August. I had like a good 2 weeks where I barely played anything except for Vampire Survivors. Thank you, Vampire Survivors, for being a really easy game to just hop in and out of. But outside of that, regrettably, I didn't play a whole lot of things. So I didn't put as much time into this game as I wanted to, but I did play it. I played on my PC and played on Steam Deck. Performance on Steam Deck was pretty good, but every once in a while, there was a little bit of slowdown, which I was surprised by because the game's not that particularly amazing looking. But on PC, it runs great. So I'm starting from the beginning again in the game. So my progress, you're watching my gameplay here, and I'm trying to remember how to play Keelik, because in this they changed his buttons up, which I hate, but I get they had to balance it. Some of it made sense because there's some moves he has that are kind of OP in prior Soulcaliburs. It's really easy for me to spam certain moves and stuff like that in certain situations, and they're still in this game, but you have to push more buttons to do them.
I mean, that's just reminiscent to me. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about other fighting game for a second, but like in Guilty Gear Double Cross or Double X, whatever terminology you want to use for that, Soul Bad Guy could do like an infinite combo. And
I watched one time, it was Rob and I think Josh.
Probably.
Both playing Soul Bad Guy, and they were just the whole fight bouncing off the wall and kicking at each other the whole time, just nonstop. And they're both just like trying to beat each other. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Fortunately, they've added delays. So there's
which
pauses that happen.
I
Soul Bad Guy is still OP as fuck, though.
Yeah, I don't mind the move, but the spam of it was ridiculous. So yeah, those pauses matter.
He was just too fast, and there was no breaks, so he could just go. I think in Strive, anyways, everyone's slower, which I kind of appreciate. So
yeah.
Anyways, we're not talking about Strive. I just brought that up because you had said
I'm trying to remember how we got here. So
OP moves with Keelik.
Yeah, so they changed his. What I was saying is in the footage, I'm still trying to like feel out the buttons. There's some familiarity here because some of the stuff is still there, but then other moves, I'm like, is this how you do this? No, is this how you do this? And yeah. So anyway, starting from the beginning though, playing, trying to relearn the characters again. Starting from the beginning when it comes to Libra Souls. I didn't touch the story mode. No. On Steam Deck, I did a little bit. But for the most part, I played Libra Souls, which is pretty cool to have done that because when the game originally came out, I played a lot of arcade and I played a lot of the story mode. So I was like, I didn't really touch Libra Souls a whole lot. I played a little bit, but I actually really liked the game mode. Like, we can get rid of like the pause in combat thing in 7. I'm 100% on board with that. Get rid of that shit. It's a neat idea. I don't hate it, but it's not cool. Not that cool. Get rid of it. But I would love to see Libra Souls, carry over into 7. I think it's a really cool mode. I think it's a lot of fun. It adds something to chew on in the gameplay, because Soul Calibur is no stranger to getting new weapons and unlocks and stuff like that. Is always been a really content dense series, and so I'm that's one thing I'm a big fan of. But Libra Souls has this RPG feel to it, where you're leveling up, you're upgrading your gear, stuff like that. It's a little shallow, but it's still really neat to do that. And it's also still satisfying that I want to play a fighting game, because I am playing a fighting game, but I'm also making these choices on, like, do I just continue the main missions, or do I spend money to go to side missions? And it has like a really cool balance and feeling of exploration that fighting games, most of them don't offer. They don't have modes like this.
What I was going to say is I think that mode, and then to throw another fighting game in there, Mortal Kombat, are probably the only 2 fighting games I could think of that offer a casual-friendly single-player mode, which I think is huge for success as well, because the one audience that is completely ignored for fighting games is the person who just wants to play it by themselves. Because they're definitely, like, all the ones that come out, they're like, here's an arcade mode, here's versus online, that this is the game you bought.
Yeah.
So,
are you saying Libra of Souls is a casual friendly mode?
yeah, it's a casual single player, friendly mode for the game, so that, if you're not the type of person who wants to play competitive multiplayer, you have that still.
I think a casual person could enjoy it, but like, if you start exploring doing missions, there's ones that are like ranked up way higher, that if you weren't very familiar with your characters in this game, you're gonna get stomped by like a level like 25 dude if you're like level 12 or something like that.
Sure, but it's not the same as like participating in a tournament online with a bunch of
Sure.
swordies.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Casual doesn't necessarily mean easy. It just means ease of access.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, actually, No Compromise really like this mode. I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
I would really like to see it in a future game, because I can sit there and play arcade and hone in my skills and get better and play my friends and beat them. That's what we've been doing forever. But I said that luckily we're in a time now in fighting games and in racing games where they're starting to evolve. But years ago, during the life of this channel, I said that fighting games and racing games need to evolve, because they're just stuck in doing what they used to do, and they haven't really done much. And like shooters, RPGs, all these things have evolved way past that. And so it is really cool to see fighting games starting to offer better stories. This isn't even new anymore, but it's more common now. But that was a thing that was like, fighting games are like notorious for not telling their stories well, and then offering modes that aren't just like fight your friends or fight bots. And Soul Calibur did kind of lead the charge in that, where they had a lot of different modes. There's like endless modes where you fought dudes that guys kept coming out, and older Soul Caliburs and all sorts of stuff. Mortal Kombat has also had a lot of modes, so they've both been really good about heading that on. But to add like this RPG-esque element is something I'd like to see other fighting games do. I really like it. Yeah, so story mode, we talked about a little bit already. I think it's smart. It could be better. It's nothing new for Soul Calibur. They've always had a lot of pictures and great music that I love. And I love that element. I don't want that to change, but they could be telling the story with something more entertaining to watch. I don't like sitting there just reading the text and seeing pictures. I love the artwork of the pictures. I've always loved the artwork in Soul Calibur.
Yeah, they do.
I've always loved unlocking the pictures. It's one of the only games I'll actually like look at the picture, like, oh, this is really cool. But in terms of like storytelling, especially compared to a lot of fighting games now that are telling stories in much more entertaining ways, it does feel behind and deflated. It's not the worst thing ever, but it could be better. But I do still stand by, I like the way that their chronological order is set up for the progression of the story. I think it's a good touch. This whole game is just like, that's cool, that could be better. That's actually really cool, that could be better.
Yeah.
That's cool, but again, my whole thought process on this game playing again is this is course correction. They had to fix what they did wrong with 5, and I think they did it. So, but anyway, story mode's cool. I like the way it's formatted. I think the story could be told better. I don't even mind the reboot. It's pretty close to the original, with some differences. The core story is still pretty much the same.
And having, like, for example, Tira was obviously an original character, and now she's part of the...
Yeah, there's a bunch of people who are like just more involved with that story. And they can retroactively write them in better, because before the story already existed, and like Zoslamel shows up and like, well, he was part of this thing that happened before, and you got to kind of buy that. Whereas like now they go like, well, we kind of added him here, but maybe he always was, like, and just, they can structure it better. So I don't even mind the reboot. I think they did a good job with it. Arcade's fine. I mean, that's pretty much where I went to test out characters, and I tested out a lot of them. A lot of them feel similar. Their moves are slightly different, but not too different, which was a little rough because I got to relearn that stuff. But it's not nearly as bad as 5. I keep bringing up 5, but like it's such a mistake where they like really changed characters, which I was very upset about. Roster's huge. A lot of characters.
It is.
Plus, you can make your own character. So, you could set them up with any of your favorite characters, moves, and weapons.
I actually really appreciate that there's a lot of characters without the DLCs. And obviously, the profit margin for fighting games is to do these DLC, season passes or whatever. But a lot of fighting games, for a while, they were offering like really minimal characters and like purposely withholding like fan favorites and stuff.
The fighting game genre has had such a weird road.
Well, a lot of that was them trying to figure out how to make money off it.
Yeah.
Because fighting games don't sell a lot.
In that time where I was complaining about the games needed to evolve or whatever, I think there was a lot of confusion on how to adapt the genre into... Because you look at other games and they're like, well, they got a bunch of people playing their game and they're making out like so much more money than we are in our format that we have to try and get in on that. So they start experimenting with like, well, do we withhold characters? Do we do this, do that?
Well, it's like at EVO, they had announced like Guilty Gear had sold 1 million copies or something like that, which was like huge for them. It's the most they've ever sold of one of their games. So that's crazy that those... You think about gaming, 1 million's not that many copies for a lot of types of games.
For an indie person, it is, but for like a AAA developer, that's pretty small.
Just kind of shows you fighting games, right? So it's very niche.
100%, yeah. Because even a lot of people who will, go over to a friend's house and play a fighting game, they're not buying the fighting game and playing it.
Yeah.
They're playing AAA blockbusters like God of War, or Call of Duty, stuff like that. So. Yeah. Anyway, we keep going off on things, but I just think fighting games is a really interesting topic in gaming. So I keep thinking about all the things. But yeah, the roster's big, and it doesn't feel cheap. And the DLCs do add even more characters, and there's so many. I was like, I don't even know where to begin. So I played some of the characters I'm more used to playing. So yeah, really happy with the roster. No negatives there. Create a character is always cool. It's good here, but it feels a little too familiar. We already covered that. So it's not exciting to make a character. I feel like I've already done it with this character creator before. So hopefully they can make that better in a future iteration. There's certain things they gotta up the ante on. Yeah, I don't know really what else to add to it. Everything feels like Soulcalibur, though. Like, I can't really complain. There's just certain things I think they really nailed, and certain things that can improve. I touched on a little bit already, but I love the music in this game. I love the music in Soulcalibur. I love the whole aesthetic of Soulcalibur, where it's all like very like fantasy looking. Everything's on pages and everything's drawn, and the music's really whimsical and stuff. This game has that, which is super important. It's like making a Silent Hill, not having Akira Yamaoka. Like, Soulcalibur has to have that feel, and this one does have that, so that's good. Yeah, overall I liked it. I enjoyed myself, and I'll probably continue to play it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, not really.
So we're gonna jump into recommendations, but I feel like this is so obvious. We already touched on this. It's a fighting game. If you like fighting games and you haven't played Soulcalibur for some reason, I would personally recommend it to you personally that I think you should try it out because it's my favorite series. But it might not jive for you because there are those different types of fighting games.
There are, and I'll add to that in the genre of 3D fighters. I do think this is the most new player friendly.
Yeah, Tekken's not.
No, Tekken's very hardcore.
See those nerds holding their controller and or they got their fight sticks. That's a whole different breed of people.
And that's because it does have a variety of modes, so you can kind of like get a feel for stuff. You could do the story mode. You could do the Libra of Souls. You could do character creation and do verses and stuff
I guess,
like that. So
I don't know if that's what you meant by it, but now I can kind of see offering a casual player who's not just getting thrust into arcade or against people having a structured gameplay.
Yeah,
is accessible.
I know people like to use the word casual as in like, oh, they're making the game easier, which is not what they're doing. They're making the game accessible to more people. Yeah. And I think Soulcalibur has an entry more point. Accessibility.
Yeah.
So it's more casual friendly.
Yeah. I mean, I argue with people on the internet, so when I hear casual, I instantly think
for sure it has a negative connotation to it.
People aren't good.
Casual isn't a negative thing. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, if only hardcore people played games, the gaming industry would be dead. So
yeah, there's less of them than there is everybody else.
Yeah. So but you can make a game cater to both, and I think Soulcalibur has the potential to be that 100%. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have the difficulty. I just think it has the audience because it's trying to find its place in modern day fighting games, right? But it's there. It has the potential for sure. But anyways, go back into recommendations. I do think that if you're gonna recommend a 3D fighter, it's basically this and Tekken at this point. I think Virtua Fighter technically is out there, but that is a little harder as well.
I would hope and pray you'd try the newest DOA, but even there, it's a
hard sell. I loved those games. I haven't played the newest one, but yeah, I think Soulcalibur is the best. Like, if you want to get into it and try out this style of fighting game, I think it's the best one to do that with. So,
yeah. So kind of going back, if you're into fighting games and you didn't play this, I'd recommend it to you. If you're into Soulcalibur and you didn't play this because maybe you played 5, you're like, I give up on the series, I would recommend it to you.
If you want a couch co-op game, because it's pretty much just only going to be good multiplayer for couch co-op, or not co-op, couch play, I should say.
Okay.
Not co-op.
I think I meant like passing the controller back and forth on the bristle or something. I'm like, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, if you want to invite people over, it's a game to add to your collection, I'd say.
That is honestly a weird thing about fighting games is like, even though they're not co-op, it is the type of game where like you'll try and get as far as you can and then you'll pass the controller to somebody else. So it is a good social in-person game, like most fighting games.
Yeah, as long as you're not the type to get salty real easy. So
yeah. I would recommend it to people who want a more RPG experience in a fighting. You have to like a fighting game. Like that's the main recommendation. If you don't like fighting games, you're not going to be into this. Like it's not gonna change your mind or sell it. So. Yeah, but the caveat is like fighting games. But if you are looking for something that like you can sit down and kind of feel like you're progressing through something and kind of making choices and picking gear and upgrading stuff, like this has that. So maybe you didn't know that, and I'm telling you that'd be weird. But if that is the case, I would recommend it to you directly if that sounds cool to you, especially if you like Soulcalibur, because it's super satisfying for me personally. And if you like games where you unlock a bunch of stuff, Soulcalibur's always been a really good suite of content and and modes
that do it.
Yeah, and that's always been a big thing I've loved about Soulcalibur since playing Soulcalibur 2. Really, well, Soulcalibur is just having all the you're playing the game, it's fun, but you're also getting stuff. It's like almost like the time splitters of fighting games. That's an old reference. Yeah, other than that, I don't know if I have other recommendations. It's such a specific genre that you either like it or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's the TLDR. It's a 3D fighter with a lot of content that is playable no matter your skill level.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into grades. I'll go first, and I'm really kind of struggling with this, but I think I'm just going to embrace how I feel about it. I'm going to give this a very, very light A-.
Okay.
I feel like responsibly I should give it a B+, but all the things I dislike about it are mostly just like critiques on how they feel kind of lazy. But I think overall they did get this back on track. I do want this to move forward. I would like that thing in combat to leave though. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But overall it was just nice to play a Soulcalibur I enjoy again.
For sure.
And so yeah, my love of the series is definitely pushing that into the A territory just because it's my favorite series. But I think they did this responsibly and pulled back some punches on a couple things they could have really, went forward with and really did a great job with. But Libra Souls is a really cool mode. The story mode is interesting. It's a responsible reboot, and most importantly, it plays awesome. So yeah, light A-.
So I'm going to agree with pretty much everything you said, minus it being one of my favorite fighting games. I'm not the big. I like Soulcalibur, but it's not one of my favorites. I don't like 3D fighters that much, but I do think it's a good time to play, and I think it's fun to play with friends and stuff like that. I think if they improve the net code to make that more viable, because I do play fighting games with people online mostly. I'd probably grade it higher, but I'm going to give it a B. I think it's a good starting point for, like I said, restarting the series, and I hope they improve from here, and hopefully they have the money to do as such. I want them to take what they've made here and just improve upon it, and then mechanically change combat because I don't like that one feature, but I'm more than happy for them to experiment with something else too. You can't do the same thing over and over again; it'll get stale. I mean, there's a reason every Street Fighter plays different, every Guilty Gear plays different because you have to, right? So, but you want to keep it safe. You don't want to alienate people. So it's kind of tricky. I get it, but that mode, that mechanic,
feature,
is a miss in my opinion.
Yeah,
so.
it's probably the biggest miss for me. It's not even like bad. It's just like I really could go without this. I don't want that.
But yeah, I mean, it's a solid game. I just think it could be more, and so I'm gonna give it a B.
A lot of places to improve for sure. I agree with that. Yeah, so let us know in the comments what you guys think of Soulcalibur VI. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What mode do you typically play? Have you played it online? Do you think it's acceptable the way they have it set up? What's your favorite Soulcalibur? Who's your favorite character? I already kind of mentioned Keelik's my favorite, but I really can play most of them and like most of them. I'm glad this one has... it's so weird because ever since he's been one of my favorite characters for so long, I still don't understand why his name is spelt Hwang, Huang or Huang or whatever the hell. But they call him Hansel Yo. And I'm like, well, what is his fucking name then? He's one of my favorite characters. I love that guy. But yeah, I like Raphael, all sorts of shit. So yeah, let me know your favorite character, who's your main, and what's your favorite Soulcalibur. I honestly think that 2 through 4 were really good. So that's kind of rough for me. But yeah, 5 was awful.
What would you add?
What would you add? What do you want them to improve upon? What would you like to see in a 7? And what's your favorite fighting game? Let me know everything you're thinking about in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Game of the Month for August. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes. Check out our streams and our socials linked down below. Check out our Discord link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And we have a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel more than liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you're brand new. And I have a TikTok. It's Tasty Loot Gaming. I'm Tasty Senpai. Check it out for original short clips. And I am thinking about maybe at the end of every month making like a video for YouTube of just like the best TikToks I made and see if people want to see those or not. Because I kind of hate making content over there and not having it here, but I also don't want to put it on shorts. Because I don't want the timeline full of shorts.
Everyone else does it.
Yeah, it just looks like shit. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys have opinions on that. But I might just do a highlight reel for now. But yeah, I've been Seth. This has been Chevy. Until the next episode, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.